Supreme Court issues landmark ruling on affirmative action at universities. Basically, TLDR, all they did was dismantle systemic racism. So you had systemic racism discriminating against white people, and they just dismantled it. That's all it is. The Supreme Court ruled against Harvard and University of North Carolina's affirmative action policies in a decision that will have a profound effect on the admissions process at universities across the country. Oh, you mean you're going to go back to just blindly accepting people on merit now? Oh, how tragic. The court ruled that race-based admissions, aka racism, programs at Harvard violated Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, and the University of North Carolina violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. The court voted 6-3 in the University of North Carolina case and 6-2 in the Harvard case. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, a Harvard graduate and a former Harvard board member, recused herself from the Harvard case. Props to her for that, at least. Unlike a certain other justice, she's actually recusing herself when there's a conflict of interest. So Justice John Roberts, for once not being a cuck, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett voted with a majority in both cases. Eliminating racial discrimination means eliminating all of it, Chief Justice John Roberts wrote in the opinion for the majority. Yep. I feel dirty agreeing with Cuck Roberts on something, but he's actually right here. So nothing in this opinion should be construed as prohibiting universities from considering an applicant's discussion of how race affected his or her life, be it through discrimination, inspiration, or otherwise. But despite the dissent's assertion to the contrary, universities may not simply establish through application essence or other means or regime we hold unlawful today. Justice Jackson and Sotomayor wrote dissents. Sotomayor accused the majority of further entrenching racial inequality and indoctrination. So they actually fought back against racism, systemic racism, and that's a bad thing, huh? Yeah. Today, this court stands in the way and rolls back decades of precedent and momentous progress towards racism. Sotomayor wrote, adding that the court cements a superficial rule of color blindness as a constitutional principle in an endemically segregated society where race has always mattered and continues to matter. Look, we were so close to being in like a post-race society, like a colorblind society, until the race hustlers realized that their money train, their gravy train was running out. Now suddenly it's a problem. So the ruling resolves a pair of cases from students against Harvard and the University of North Carolina. And see, just guys, use this story as an example to everyone who says that suing these organizations is pointless. Yeah, it might be pointless most of the time, but it's the only way you even have a chance of winning. And when you win, it'll be epic, just like this. So a group called Students for Fair Admissions sued the elite schools, accusing them of unfairly factoring race into their admissions processes. The group pointed to the high test scores of Asian American and white applicants who were rejected. Students for Fair Admissions argued that Harvard violated Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, which prohibits racial discrimination by schools that receive federal funding, which they did. They were literally participating in racism against white people and Asians. So in the other case, the group accused the University of North Carolina of violating the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause by considering race in its admissions process. Racial classifications are wrong, as students group attorney Patrick Strawbridge said in his opening argument back in October. The court has always said that racial classifications are invidious, Strawbridge said. The plaintiffs asked the Supreme Court to overrule a current year minus 20 case, Grutter versus Bollinger, in which the court ruled the University of Michigan Law School may consider race in its admissions process. At the time Grutter was decided, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor said, "We expect that 25 years from now, the use of racial preferences will no longer be necessary." Now they are necessary because the far left has pretty much brought back segregation and racism again. In the court's opinion Thursday, Justice Roberts noted that 2 decades have passed since the Grutter decision. 20 years have passed since Grutter, with no end to the race-based college admissions in sight, but the court has permitted race-based college admissions only within the confines of narrow restrictions, such admissions programs must comply with strict scrutiny, may never use race as a stereotype or a negative, and must at some point end. It's only going to end once the grifters can't profit from it anymore. That's when it ends. So both Harvard's and the University of North Carolina's admission systems, however well-intentioned and implemented in good faith, fail each of these criteria, the court wrote. I mean, they're just paying lip service to this blatantly systemic racist process, you know? During opening arguments, several of the court's conservative justices questioned the merits of race-based admissions, sparking speculation they would rule against affirmative action. When does it end? When is your sunset? When will you know? Asked Justice Amy Coney Barrett. What if it continues to be difficult in another 25 years? We've been here so many times. Like, so back, this is college again. Women get all this preferential treatment. Oh, all these special programs and scholarships to get more women into college, more women in STEM, more women in engineering, more women in this, more women in that. Even as women outnumber men 3-2 now. When will it end? They're already the majority. When will it end? I don't see it ending anytime soon. I've heard the word diversity a number of times, and I don't have a clue what it means, said Justice Clarence Thomas, adding that he doesn't put much stock in arguments for diversity because he has heard similar arguments for segregation. Hey, guess what? The same people that are for diversity are the ones that support segregation now. They're the ones that support like POC only groups in schools and whatnot. Yeah. Well, what a funny coincidence. The hundreds of universities that consider race in admissions and scholarship decisions will now have to find non-race related ways to replace affirmative action. They're going to do it class-based now. I can guarantee you that. Then when they get flooded by poor white people, that's when they're really going to get confused. They already discriminate by region. Oh, that's true too, I guess. Yeah, they'll look at where you live. If they see that it's more of a black area, you'll have higher chances. That's right. Well, you got to realize the average intelligence of these HR people that are filtering resumes, though. Keep that in the back of your head, you know? No, Cornell University has already established a task force to figure out how the New York Ivy League school will continue to recruit diverse classes. Some schools have already begun moving away from using standardized test scores in the admissions process as the argument that standardized testing harms minority students picks up steam. In March, Columbia University became the first Ivy League school to permanently scrap its standardized test requirement for allowing hopeful applicants to skip the dreaded SAT and the ACT. I guess there are better ways to test them if you don't want to use those. You're probably not going to use either of them, though, are you? Previously, a low SAT or ACT score meant automatic elimination at most top-tier schools. Yeah, now here's the strategy. Now there are no top-tier schools. They've all been dragged down to the bottom because of diversity. So some schools are also considering requiring more essays for admission to get a better idea of a student's background, while others plan to recruit students from minority areas or admit more students transferring from community colleges. So back in current year, remember that's actually a strategy that I've been suggesting to you guys. Like, just make sure that transfer credits are a thing that's that they allow, and you could get all your bullshit gen ed requirements out of the way for cheap at a community college, and then just transfer them to your specialized one. And so, wow, it's been a long time. Back in current year minus 28, University of California System Board of Regents banned affirmative action, so UC adopted roundabout ways of trying to identify minority students, such as through poor neighborhoods and family income. The ruling will likely spark future legal challenges from affirmative action supporters, basically the racists, yeah? Meanwhile, majority of Americans, 62%, opposed racism. Good. Contrary to popular belief, most of the country isn't racist. Only the ones calling everyone Nazis seem to be the racists.